Hello there, fellow faithful and loyal servants of the Emperor. This is Connor, and I want to talk about something to do with Darktide, something that I see as a big problem, and I don't want to be overly negative in this video because honestly, Darktide has some of the best sound design that I've heard from a video game in a long time. I believe that it should get the award for best sound design of 2022 because of the weapons, the environmental sound effects, the Foley, the soundtrack, of course. Everything is magnificent. Amazingly good. But the one thing I don't believe that the game actually has is any character for the enemies you're facing. And I think it's a big problem because they chose Nurgle as the god that is pretty much precedent in this game. He's the cause of everything that's going on. But you can't tell that just from interacting or engaging with any of the enemies. So just to explain, Nurgle is the chaos god of pestilence, decay, mutation, rot. He loves diseases. He's that kid that sat in science class and just played with a microscope looking at all these different bacteria under it and had a hell of a good time doing so. And that's where the problem is. Nurgle is a very joyous god. He's very happy and giving. He's basically just Santa Claus of 40k. But instead of giving you another 360 because your previous one red ringed, he gives you cholera or tuberculosis or something like that. And while he's doing so, he's laughing, having a good time, having a wee chuckle. And that's the problem here. There are followers and demons of Nurgle in this, but none of them ever give you the vibe that they're followers or demons of Nurgle. They don't laugh, they don't chuckle, they don't have a good time. They're just all serious, all growls, all grunts, all howling. There's nothing interesting about them. They're just your average zombie enemy in a zombie game. Which is sad because the Ogryn have so much character. Their banter and some of the things that come out of their mouths are amazing. But whenever one of the chaos Nurgle monstrosities or beasts spawn in, it's not overly interesting. It just growls and grunts like I said before. It doesn't have anything about it that you're curious about or you want to see or hear again. It's just your run-of-the-mill big monstrosity that's there to deal damage, and you have to deal damage to it to get rid of it. But Nurgle is a gold mine of humour and character that I just believe Fatshark are just ignoring. So for example, whenever the big Nurgle monstrosity beast thing spawns in, instead of it just like gargling, or not, it doesn't even gargle, instead of it just roaring and just being a run-of-the-mill monster, how about it laughs and giggles to itself? And the closer it gets to you, the louder it gets, the more excited it gets, and that in and of itself is terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. Because that's what Nurgle's all about. All of his monsters and creatures are basically very loving and very... They want to play with you, basically. So whenever a Nurgle demon spawns in, let's say, and there's a line of guardsmen ready to hit them with their las guns, it doesn't necessarily see them as enemies. It sees them as something or someone to play with. But it doesn't understand how big it is. It doesn't understand that it's a massive beast, monstrosity, eldritch horror. It just thinks of itself as a big puppy dog, and it thinks of the guardsmen as its owner that it wants to play with. So whenever it runs over, squishes them all, it's actually sad, because that's just how Nurgle is. Out of all the Chaos Gods, I believe he's probably the least malicious. I don't think he actually understands what he's doing is actually bad in any way. He truly believes that spreading these diseases is for the best. So just like all the enemies in Darktide, imagine the Chaos Demon spawns in, and instead of just a grunting, this is what you hear as it's approaching you. And the closer it gets, the louder it gets, and the more excited it gets. And then whenever it's actually in combat with you, it's in ecstasy. Not Slanesh levels of ecstasy, because that's not what it's about. It doesn't want to, buy fursuits on Amazon or anything, or introduce the directly to World of Warcraft. It just wants to play. It just wants to have fun. That's all it wants. So it just becomes so excited when it's actually in combat with you that it starts laughing and giggling, and it's ecstatic, and it's just fun. Even though to you, it's terrifying, to it, It's just playing with you. The regular soldiers, like the infantry or the specials, could talk about like what Grandpappy Nurgle gave to them that morning. One of them could be like, "Oh, I got strep throat. It's amazing." And the other guy would be like, "Well, you'll never guess what I got. What did you get?" "I got tuberculosis." "It's pretty cool." And the other guy would be very jealous, and that could be like like a conversation troops would have. Right now, it's just grunts, you know, boring. And that's mainly what I just wanted to talk about. The game could have so much character, and it would be interesting, like, going into a mission to discover what people are saying. And one thing from Left 4 Dead, which is just coming out of left field, was that there were an enemy type called witches. And they were just little girls who had become zombified, but they were very dangerous. And they used to just sit, like, on their own, out of the way, and cry. And it was terrifying because you didn't have to approach them or alert them. You could easily avoid them. But you were always like kind of curious. So even after like many games, you'd still approach them to trigger just because they're crying. It gives an emotional response. And again, that's just something that's missing from this. And it could add so much to the game. And I wish it was in the game. But all that said, I think Fat Shark have done an amazing job. The audio design and visually the game looks incredible. Sounds incredible. So we'll leave it there. I hope you're enjoying whatever it is you're playing. If it is this, then purge the heretics for the Emperor. And of course, like always, we'll see you next time. Bye bye, folks.